So for today, we are spending an hour really digging into the topics that Michael reviewed in our last course. This is an opportunity for everybody to engage, to ask questions, to surface any challenges or roadblocks. We want to hear from you and see how we can help to solve and make you guys better digital fundraisers. So thank you for joining today. And with that, I will turn it over to Michael.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Jordan. And hello, everybody. It's so nice to be able to join with you again. And excited to dig into one of our learning labs. As Jordan explained, really the goal for these labs is as much sharing and discussion as we can manage in an hour. So we're gonna focus and build on the material that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. So we've kind of broken it up into two parts, as you can see here on the screen. The first part, we're going to dig in a little bit deeper into the developing your email welcome series, and we're going to be calling on some of you to share some of your experiences doing that and engage in that conversation. Maybe we can do some support for each other and brainstorming and all that kind of good stuff. And then we're also going to focus just around year-end donor prospecting and engagement. We've got also the same sort of set of questions and really want to open it up for folks to share their experiences, their pain points, their opportunities for growth. Our usual housekeeping slide is here. Session's being recorded. The chat room is where we definitely invite you to put any questions, comments. I may throw out a couple of sort of like, hey folks, tell me what email platform you're using or something like that. So there may be sort of these like spot questions that I might throw out. So definitely inviting you to use the chat room to do that. And then we have our usual support opportunities for all of you to be able to do that. Great. Okay. So why don't we dive into our first topic? And really just also want to encourage, this isn't so much a presentation as a conversation. So if there's something that you just want to, you can raise your hand in Zoom or ask a question in the chat, and we'll keep an eye on that. So definitely feel free to dig into that. So I didn't want to go through too much of I didn't want to go through any of the content from the last time, but really just wanted to open it up. I know that a few of you had shared last time that you were currently working on setting up an email welcome series. In other words, like in the throes of it. I know that Heather from Our Front Porch, you mentioned you were thinking about doing something on MailChimp. Allison with Boulder Open Space Conservancy, you were, I guess, on Constant Contact, so different platform. Brianna had a couple of questions. There's another couple slides here, but I'll just, why don't we just stick with this one here? And I'd love to invite Heather, if you're here, and I think you are, because I'm looking at my little list over here. And then Allison and Brianna, if you're comfortable and feeling in a sharing mood, if you wouldn't mind sharing with the group. Heather, do you want to go first?
Hey, how are you? Can you hear us?
Yes, absolutely.
And I apologize, I have a dog in front of me. So here we are. There's our office dog.
Yeah. Perfect.
Oh,
dogs are very welcome.
I want an office dog.
He's good. Okay, so we are still very much working on our donors welcome series, and we talked to Jordan last week about it and got some good ideas. And honestly, I think, and Maris, correct me if I'm wrong, it's more technical issues. Like we use MailChimp and we've got to work through how that actually technologically works, if that's fair.
Well, and I think Heather, you had some good questions around like, what do we do with new donors? Like when you set up your email welcome series, are you just pushing through the new donors that come from that point on? Or what do you do with the folks that are already in your system? Are they going through a different welcome series? So I thought that was a really good question that I didn't necessarily have a good answer for. So I was wondering, Michael, what are your thoughts on like, when you're setting up that first welcome series, like how are you managing data within your system and also serving those who are coming in after you set it up?
Yeah, no, that's a super great topic. I mean, um, typically we call these like an email welcome series as opposed to a donor welcome series. I mean, I think you could draw some distinctions between the two. I mean, I think that if I had to sort of say, like in terms of the difference between the two, I mean, I definitely think the email welcome series is a little bit easier to set up and easier to build, just in terms of the content. It has a little bit more of its own sort of rationale. Like typically when someone signs up for email, they're either new to your organization and or a new donor at the same time. So in essence, you can pretty much usually assume that like you're really just introducing that individual to the organization as a whole. So they've either come through, you met them at a farmer's market, you met them at an event, they heard you on the radio and got to your website, they stumbled upon you on social media. But so I think like typically that's the most usual framing for an email welcome series. Like, hi, we're our front porch, here's what we do. Here's a link to a video that has a 3-minute thing about what we do. Here's a list of our programs. Here's some upcoming events, or here's how to find out the upcoming events. I think that can be a really that can be more of a straightforward kind of thing to design. I think the donor welcome series is always more difficult as a series because you don't really know where they maybe they've already been, maybe they've come to dozens of your events, just never became a donor. So it's sort of sometimes hard to like figure out what the right content is. Now, when someone makes a donation, you definitely want to send them like a thank you email, right? You definitely want to like welcome them in as a donor or just thank them for the gift. I remember people make repeat gifts and all that kind of stuff. So I think if you had to juggle between, should there be a donor welcome series or should there be an email welcome series, I would always go with the email welcome series as the better way to approach this, because I just think it writes itself more easily, and also from a data management perspective, it's a little bit easier to kind of manage if you know what I mean. Like people, they sign up on your website, they click the little widget, the data goes over to MailChimp, and then MailChimp has a little trigger that starts the email welcome. So it's like it's already built in pretty well. Whereas donor welcome series don't have all those like automation hooks that are already sort of set up for you that easily. Does that sort of like kind of get at the core of your question? But keep probing with me if not.
Yeah, I think that's because we were thinking of it more from a donor perspective, but we also had this question of, and maybe this makes more sense, if we have an existing base of people and email addresses. We've never done this before. So maybe we start with like, everybody gets this. We start the series with our existing people. And then, we don't get a lot of we don't get a lot of new people who are like, oh, sign up for my newsletter on the website. So
Okay.
I guess that would be a question too. Like if we're literally starting from scratch and we're starting
Right.
with existing donor base, what would be a good strategy?
I mean, I would say you would want to start it really with like the new people going forward from now, like and not send the welcome series to people who have been on your list for 6 months or a year, because I'm gonna make the presumption, I'm projecting a lot here, but I'm gonna make the presumption that those people already on your list already know what you're up to. They've already gotten your newsletters, maybe they've come to some of your events, etc. So really an email welcome series from a cultivation stewardship point of view, it's always about this idea of first contact, right? You're making first contact with the person, and you really want to showcase everything you've got for them. What's your reason for being, how people can get more involved. It's sort of really that sort of like front door, well, a front porch, so just to reuse your name, it's sort of like, it's really like a welcoming sort of series. So I would say you'd probably want to start it just like with the new people going forward. I mean, I think that's typically how people sort of frame this. Now, I'll just throw one additional idea in. I mean, there is such a thing as like an email series that you could just have in the middle of the year. Let's say you were like wanted to educate your community about, hey, we have a new campaign that we're starting, and here's a 3-part series that's going to describe what it is. Or here's an advocacy effort we're going to be starting with in our state capital. we want to educate you about this issue. And so we've got this like 2 or 4 part email that we're going to send you over the next few weeks, etc. So there are such things, I think, as email series that you can do that can sort of just drop in anywhere, that you could send to any part of your email list. But again, if we're talking just about the email welcome series, I think it's better positioned as like you send it only to new people who are subscribing to your list. How does that work for you, Heather?
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because we kind of like, it's like there's whatever 8 things balls in the air, right? So like
Okay.
we will be having a mid-year like fundraising campaign. We do have like, we want to tweak our donors get a thank you, but it could probably be better. So, all of the things. So that sounds
And just
Got
to
it.
repeat, what I'm hearing is there's a new donor welcome series potential. So the trigger would be a new donation to your organization. There is like a subscribe welcome series. So just welcoming new folks that are interested into your organization by, for example, setting up a newsletter. And then there's what I would call like a nurture campaign. So for the folks that are already in your database, there could be a nurture campaign where at some point throughout the year, you're just, engaging with them in that automated series to share more information, maybe do a couple non-asks, just feel good. And then maybe there's an upsell at the end to set up a recurring gift or something like that. So those are the 3 that I was hearing from you guys discussing. Obviously, they don't all have to happen at once. But does that seem correct, Michael?
That does. And let me just clarify also. I mean,
Yep.
When I talk with organizations, one of my big questions is like, how many new signups are you getting every month? And everyone has a different answer. Some people are like, oh my God, we get so many signups. We go to all these, we go to whatever, we go to, farmers markets, and we go here, we go there. We get like hundreds of people every week or month who sign up. It's so overwhelming. And so my answer for people like that is like, an email welcome series is going to be perfect for that, right? Because you have to you have to say a lot of hellos and welcomes, and this is what we do, and here's ways to get involved. So that's like a perfect kind of a thing. And use with some good organization and a good trigger, you can push those through, your constant contact or your MailChimp stuff. So that's good. If you're an organization that gets like, a lot fewer signups, if it's sort of like a trickle. I mean, it's still important to have an email welcome series, but I think it's especially important for any of you on the call today, that have a fairly high volume of signups. I think it's just super important to have the email welcome series. It just sets the stage for like a good, friendly relationship. And we've spent some time last time like talking about the different types of content you can put in there. And you want to ask people their feedback anecdotally, like, what did you like? And of course, you can look at the data and you can see, well, what did people click on that they found interesting? Wow, the video was really popular. Like little things like that can also give you like little clues about, how you can sort of, always just, improve those as much as you can. I'll mention one other thing about donor cultivation. Since you mentioned the phrase nurture, Jordan, a nurture series. So I've seen people do these really interesting things where they'll send right in the middle of the year, like it could be like in the fall, they'll send a message out to donors, and they're like a 2-part series or 3-part series, like here's ways for donors to get more involved. I've also seen them going out just to volunteers. Here's ways for things that volunteers can do in addition to volunteering. So it's really an interesting way to kind of like go after a specific segment on your file. And talk to them about something. Another example I've seen is like when people do people who participate in any kind of advocacy campaign with you. Hey, many of you like helped send messages to our legislators. Some of you came to our lobby day. Here's a wrap up of like what we did and some ideas of what you could do next. So you can use like your segmentation kind of tools to be able to do that kind of messaging. And I've seen some really good nurture series that have done that. Were there some hands up, or I saw like little thumbs or everything, but was that just like thumbs up yes, or can I ask a question or make a comment?
I was on
Okay,
mute. I
we're
don't
good.
see any hands up, but if I'm missing it,
Yeah,
let
no
me
problem.
know. Yeah, I do. There is a question here. Heather, first of all, just want to acknowledge, thank you for sharing a little bit of what you're going through and
Awesome.
thinking about. I'm going to dump some additional resources into the chat. And then in addition to this discussion, you have Catch-a-Fire if you need help setting up automated email welcome series, as well as we work, of course, with Firefly, so they can support you, as well as Patty, who did our last webinar with Learn 365. She has some open office hours and can talk shop with you. So thank you, Heather. And I'd love to hear from Allison, if that's okay. And before we do that, so I'll cue you up, Allison, if you're here. But there's a question in here from Tessa. Since MailChimp integrates with Mighty Cause, is there a way to put email list signups opt-ins in the donation form checkout process? Yes. So within your donation form, you have custom questions that you're able to display. And so you can add any type of custom questions, and we have some pre-built ones. So for example, you may consider that there can be a question. Make sure to keep it optional so you don't push people out of the donation experience. But there can be questions like, hey, do you want to receive more information from us? Or so in the donation form, yes, custom questions. You can also set up in the thank you page related to your checkout flow on Mighty Cause or Colorado Gives. You can put in there, there's a built-in call to action button, and a lot of people use that for subscribes to newsletters. So after a donation transaction is complete, they land on the thank you page. You've already customized that thank you page. And so the big call to action at the bottom is subscribe to our newsletter. So those would be two ways you might do that through the Mighty Cause system.
I also think Tessa's question, is sort of probing the question of the word automatically.
Yeah.
And in other words, like if there's a question on the donation form that's like, yes, I would like to receive email updates from this organization, and there's a little checkbox next to it. Like I often say, the checkbox should be pre-checked, so it sort of assumes people want it. But if someone then makes a donation and they click donate, is like what happens to that little checkbox and that opt-in question? Yeah. Jordan, does that then get pushed over to MailChimp or Constant Contact?
Yep. So it's okay. The information is of course accessible in real time in your reports on Colorado Gives, so within your organization page. And yes, if you are integrated with MailChimp, it will automatically push that data over to MailChimp.
Gotcha. And then inside, just to keep pushing this forward, so then inside the MailChimp platform, when people are setting up or building their automated email, I think they call them automated email series on MailChimp, then you have to just make sure that when you get to the section on triggers, you have to make sure that it's correctly aligned with the trigger that shows up coming from Mighty Cause. My assumption is that would then show up as one of the options in the trigger list.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah. All the data will populate, so you just have to make sure your triggers are set up to account for that custom question.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of little technical things in there, I think. And I think the issue of the trigger is like super important to sort of understand that, like, you have to sort of like select the right, trigger inside Constant Contact or MailChimp so that it will actually start the welcome series for all new subscribers. But then over on the donation form on the Mighty Cause side of things, you also have to make sure that there's like a custom question, right? And that the custom question is pre-checked so that people are then going to be pushed into it. So those are like two little techie things. I mean, I don't think that you don't have to learn any like HTML coding or anything fancy to do that, but it's certainly important to understand like how to use those two pieces right there.
Awesome.
And I'm just seeing a response from Tessa. So so that's great. And there's another thing you can do, by the way, like with MailChimp, but also this also applies to Emma, Constant Contact, is that you can also just set up like just an email subscription page on your website. that has like, like it's like a widget that's provided to you by MailChimp, Constant Contact, or Emma. There's a place where you can generate one. So, you can always just have that living on your site. You can put it on your homepage. You can put, and I've seen many of you have those forms all over your site since I filled most of them out. But if you don't have one, all of these email platforms make it really easy for you to put those on your site. So definitely, that's something that I'm always encouraging people to do. It's easy, and hopefully your webmaster, webmistress can help you set that up.
Well, should we move on to the next topic? Because I don't think Allison or Brianna could join us today. So let's move on and chat further.
Yeah, the second topic was actually, just really, we sort of covered a little bit of this before. I mean, I'm actually wondering, is Julie on the call today? I mean, I was actually going to ask her or her team. It sounds like they have a new donor welcome series, and I was just, if she's willing to share. I mean, I'm just curious to hear how that's worked out for you, or how people have responded to that, and yeah, how has that worked out for you, Julie?
Yes, I'm here this morning. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't seem to get my camera. Yeah. There, now you can see me.
There we go. There we
Yeah,
go.
there we go. Okay. Yeah, I just yeah, I know and we kind of covered this already a little bit, it sounds like. But yeah, we have developed a new donor welcome series, and it's currently got 5 emails that we send.
5. Wow,
So
fantastic.
yeah. So yeah, so this is why this question comes up, because yeah, it sounds like that you're recommending more of an emphasis on new subscribers or new contacts. And for us, that might also mean somebody that has attended one of our events but didn't necessarily donate. Maybe someone who attended a mental health first aid class and then maybe they signed up for the newsletter. Just all kinds of ways that people come in contact with us but haven't become donors. So it sounds like you're recommending more of an emphasis on those types of folks rather than people that have made that first donation. So I guess my question is, would it make sense to scale back the new donor welcome series and then put more emphasis on a new contact or new subscriber welcome series?
That's a fair question. Let me ask you just one point of information. I mean,
Sure.
what is the volume of the people who sign up just to get email from you, like approximately in any given month? Is it like, are we talking like a handful or hundreds? I'm just curious about sort of scale.
Yeah, it's probably, boy, it really varies. It kind of just depends on what kind of events. So I mean, it could be anywhere from 25 to 50, I'll say, just a ballpark figure.
Yeah. I mean, like I said before, I mean, I think I would sort of express my preference more for the email welcome series. I mean, if you think of when you think about it, like for every 50 people that join your list, really only a handful are going to become donors. I mean, that's just like the reality of how this works, right? It's like a numbers game.
Right.
So the way that I look at it is like, well, I'd rather put your effort in, really just into, cultivating those people who are subscribing, the people who are making first contact with you, telling about the org, ways to get involved. You don't even have to ask them for a donation, just ways to get involved, ways to support, become a volunteer. Like, I really think that it's really helpful to do that kind of cultivation and engagement with those folks for the first time. Now, when someone makes a donation, I'm not implying that you shouldn't thank them deeply and, give them, they should definitely be getting an email, which is like, welcoming them to the donor status. But I think, I think you're just going to get more, just more bang for your buck, more ROI at the end of the day, more return on investment by focusing more on your new subscribers. So that would be my advice to you, Julie. So hopefully that that helps.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up? This is really interesting. I'm just curious. So you're advising that she keep the new donor welcome series, but also, focus on what that sign up welcome series looks like. What is the result of the new donor welcome series, or is what we want out of these new donors for them to subscribe to the newsletter? So would they go from maybe that, thank you series, that new donor series, is the end result them then subscribing to the newsletter and getting the news series, or, you know, what does that look like?
Well, all donors, in my opinion, and anybody who becomes a donor, unless they're very vocal about "don't send me anything ever again" kind of language, anybody who becomes a donor should be getting your newsletter or your other email communications. I mean, you know, they're sort of consenting to like be in touch with you. I mean, every now and a blue moon, someone sort of like sends you a check but doesn't really want to be contacted. It happens every now and again. But I think most donors are like, you know, yeah, keep me posted, what's events and everything else. So, and that's why I always say, like on a donation form, you should pre-check that opt-in box that says, you know, stay in touch with me. It really should be pre-checked. If someone really doesn't want to be in contact, they'll uncheck that. And people are good at that on retail websites. You know, people are always unchecking things. So I would just keep it checked.
Awesome. Thank you, Julie. Any other
Great.
follow-up questions?
I don't
Yeah.
think so. Yeah, very good information. I will pass that along to my team.
Good. So I'm looking in the chat, which is super interesting. There's a really interesting question from Juliana Glasgow about using Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Do you know, Juliana? Just a super quick question, but then we could potentially take this question offline, maybe in a one-on-one. I mean, what is the actual email tool that you're connected to in the Salesforce Marketing Cloud? Is it like Pardot or one of those? Does that ring a bell? Is it? Are you on the call?
It used to be called
Okay.
Pardot. Now it's account engagement.
Right. And are you saying that that you're not able to get an email welcome series set up in that engagement
Not the
tool?
welcome. So the welcome series, I'm sure it's just a matter of getting help from Catchify or somebody else to sort of figure
Yeah.
out all of that. But it's just what you were talking about, having the prompt on the website to get people to sign up for
Gotcha.
emails. That's the part that, and it's my colleague who's been really in the weeds of trying to figure it out. But we just have really struggled with just having that really simple prompt on our website.
No, I see your point. Yeah. I mean, I know it can be done because you know, I've worked on numerous projects that involve the Salesforce Marketing Cloud, but you sort of like need to find like that one expert who knows how to like generate the opt-in code. I mean, this could be a great Catchifier question if we can find someone, Jordan, who has that expertise right there. So just wanted to try to find some support for Juliana in that area. Yeah, I mean, although it's, you know, if you still have trouble with this, Juliana, why don't you circle back with us like in email? Because, you know, I'm on a couple of email discussion lists where like there's lots of people who like answer these kinds of questions, and we could potentially like find someone to help you. So anyway, just we could take that offline for later.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like often with Salesforce, something that seems like it should be really simple, like this, winds up not feeling simple at all. And we're always wondering, is it us or is it really not simple? So thank you.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I'll just add on and just say, I mean, and again, I don't want to, you know, disparage any platforms or products, because, you know, each one is unique in its own way and has its own, you know, kind of constituency of people who use them. But I will say, in my experience, that the Salesforce Marketing Cloud definitely has a few extra layers of complexity on it for people, and you know, it requires sometimes some extra folks to sort of help you out a little bit. I think when Pardot was in the mix, you know, things were sort of looking up, and then things got more complicated. You know, the other problem was that, you know, some of the nonprofit support for the Salesforce platform has basically ended. It ended in 2023, and so that's left a little bit of a gap for nonprofits. So people have had to go and find like freelance consultants to help them, and that's why, you know, using things like Constant Contact, MailChimp, Emma, and those sorts of things are incredibly great platforms, because they're very easy to use. Like, to be able to find that little embed code for your website, it's like it's 3 clicks and you're there, you know, that kind of stuff. So and I'm seeing Jordan is actually dropping some good material there for Catchify, so that's awesome. Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay, so I'm just being mindful of our time since we're about halfway through, and it looks like, this question that looks like we've covered, I think, most of these issues here with donor welcome series versus email welcome series. So I thought that was very, very interesting. So I'm just going to wrap up this section. Folks can take a look at this slide also in their own time, but just like, for those of you who are, still in the process of sort of setting up the welcome series. I mean, this is my sort of little handy dandy sort of 8-step plan to sort of get you all the steps that are in here, including like, creating the storyboard, writing the copy, designing messages, physically setting them up inside your Constant Contact or MailChimp or Emma. I think there's one of you, at least one of you, that's on Squarespace. So there are quite a lot of different platforms in use. We talked about setting up email registration pages on your website as an additional thing, and then testing that little automated trigger, which is a little bit of a tricky thing to get set up correctly. And then my favorite two, which is 7 and 8, which is really, getting constant feedback and improving, reviewing the analytics and just trying to understand like what's working. For those of you who have a 5-part email series, I mean, you want to take a look at what the open rate is across those 5. Does it just keep dropping? What are the open rates that you're getting? What are the click rate? What are people clicking on? Like, oh, wow, they really love this video, or boy, they love this, learn more about volunteering. Like really just trying to learn, really what's working. Because it just gives you insight into your, into your folks that you're meeting at events that you're bringing in. So really just, really trying to own this whole process of the email welcome series, and hopefully it deepens your relationships with your friends in the community. So that's the ultimate goal. There's a couple slides that I put. We actually had a couple questions in here also about Constant Contacts. Sarah, did you get your kind of questions answered? Or how are you doing using Constant Contact? I'm not sure if you're on the call, but I should probably check before I say that. I don't think so today. Okay, no problem. So we talked about this already. Jordan, you talked a little bit about the sync that exists between the coloradogives.org platform using some of these advanced tools. So I think we've covered that. And again, you talked about the various integrations that exist. So there are ways to connect the Colorado Gives platform with different email tool sets that are out here. I don't see Constant Contact in this list, but I'm guessing with Zapier you could do it with Constant Contact. Is that correct? Right. So MailChimp
Yes,
sounds like there's one already pre-built, but then there's also other. If you're on Emma, if you're on, there's dozens of other platforms out there. So if you could always use the Zapier tools to do that with any other platform. Okay, great. And then, I'm not going to go through these slides here, but it was just sort of a walkthrough of like, how to set up an email welcome series on Constant Contact. So for those of you that are using that platform, I would probably say this is probably the easiest sort of automation tool I've seen to use. They've really just put a lot of thought into sort of making it as simple as possible, very visual. And I really always, love this one. I mean, it's pretty foolproof, pretty much can't break it. And just really easy to use. They have all these different templates to help make designing an email welcome series, easy. And then, for any of the platforms, the email platforms that you're on, folks, there are really great resources in their knowledge base. This is a link to the one on Constant Contact. I mean, it's literally like a 5-minute video followed by like 12 screens of screenshots. I mean, it's just amazing and just really easy to use. And for those of you that are on MailChimp, Emma, other platforms, I'm pretty sure all of those knowledge bases will include that material. Okay. I'm going to stop there so I can drink some water. Any other questions? Any other challenges before we move on to the next topic? Okay, good. And yes, and you're giving out my email address, which is great. Thank you for that. Okay, so why don't we dig into our second topic in our second half of the hour. So I wanted to pick up on some of these themes around year-round donor prospecting and engagement that we covered last time. And Jordan, you wanted me to remind folks of these resources that we shared last time. There's 3 screens of this stuff. Do you want to just say a few words about these before I move on?
Yeah, sure. So I took some time before our live class, this past one, and had put together these slides with a bunch of resources that are related to everything we're learning. So just wanted to remind you that these are available, and I tried to organize them by topic or strategy. And, if you have any questions or aren't yet using your advanced features, your embeddable form, if you're not fundraising actively on Colorado Gives and need help, let me know. I'm happy to set up a one-on-one call and see how we can empower you. So just wanted to give a shout out to those resources as a quick click to get you some answers, hopefully.
Yeah, and there's 3 screens here. So once the slides are made available to everyone, all of these links will become active, and so you'll be able to dig into that. Great. Okay. So as a recap from our last call, I just wanted to put together this sort of this list of sort of the 9 key items that we talked about in terms of, maximizing, improving your donor prospecting engagement. And just as a refresher, I'll just quickly whip through this. So, signing up prospects, everywhere in your community, developing your email welcome series, which we've just talked about, engaging year-round with content. And I'm, always thrilled to see, the great work that you are all putting out on email and social media. Many of you have a regular email newsletter, which is definitely the core of that. So thank you for doing those. I really enjoy reading them. Doing what you can using data management and segmentation to try to keep track of all these people that you're encountering. Many of you have, a CRM system to do that. You're doing it inside Mighty Cause. You're doing it on other platforms as well. So that's just super important to be able to do. You're obviously managing your tech stack, so to speak. You've got a web, I would say all of you have a website. I think all of you do some form of email, some more than others, some less than others. And I would say probably almost all of you are on social media pretty actively. So that's just great that you're doing that. Obviously, I think most of you are doing at least a year-end campaign and other seasonal fundraising campaigns. So it's really exciting to see the different types of events you're all organizing. And also thinking about, just what kind of multi-channel communications you can arrange. I mean, not just in the digital realm. I know this class is about digital fundraising, but we're also always thinking about, what you're doing in personal events. Some of you have postcard mailings. Some of you do webinars, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really just, thinking that multi-channel. And then finally, just like, new and creative ways, sort of to deepen engagement with donors, inviting them to make larger gifts, inviting them to become a monthly donor. So this is what we covered last time. And we wanted to highlight one of our cohort members, which is our friends at Turning the Wheel. And Abby, you were so excited last time to share some of your ideas, and wanted to invite you to talk a little bit about your experience at Turning the Wheel, around sort of what's worked for you in kind of this donor prospect and engagement area. So anything you feel comfortable sharing with the team, I think people would enjoy hearing about. And there you are on the video screen. Hello.
Awesome. Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good, thank you. Yeah, so let's see what I want to share. I think the biggest thing for us, especially with donor engagement, is the one-on-one connection. So the phone calls. My director and founder has been doing a lot of like donor meetings. So she'll go have tea with people, meet up with people, chat with them. And we also this year just started sending donor gifts, which we haven't really, kind of done, but it was more intentional this year. And that has also had a really great response. And we made it as simple as we could for ourselves. We ended up sending a digital CD of our musician, his beautiful music. And people have been really responding to that. And that was really easy to send. And then definitely also social media. Our donors love to see what we're doing. And I've also really learned that our donors are on a variety of social media, right? I have some that are specifically only LinkedIn, some that are specifically only Insta. We did just start a TikTok, so that's slowly growing, but I'm hoping to reach a younger audience that way. And one of my struggles for sure is or just keeping up with the emails from MailChimp. So that's something I want to, I don't know, just get better with, and I kind of recommit with it.
Can you say something more about what you mean by the MailChimp stuff? Like, just give us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I
What do you
think
mean
it's
by keeping up?
mostly just capacity. I am pretty much the main person for social media and MailChimps, and I also wear many other hats in turning the wheel. So I think it's mostly capacity for me, making the time to stay on top of MailChimps. I've gotten to a really good routine with my social media, but not quite with my MailChimps yet.
So you mean like sending email
Yes, just getting
updates
them
out to the
out. Yeah,
community,
like during
pushing out?
Colorado
Yeah,
Gives, I was doing really well, and we're
yeah.
getting ready to do a big production, so I've been doing well with that. But just kind of like the updates, like, a monthly update. This is what we're doing. I haven't quite got a
Yeah,
hold of.
a consistent touch.
Yes, the consistent touch. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it does seem to me that you are getting out at the very minimum a monthly update to your subscribers. Are you not? Or maybe I'm
Yes and no. So
okay.
not
Okay,
like
yeah,
a general update. Lately, it's been very specific, like CO gives or a production coming up or a
gotcha.
specific ask or something, but not just like a general, this is what we're
Yeah,
up to.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's actually a very sort of just insightful way to think of it. I mean, I often say to folks, when people often ask me like, what's the right cadence? What's the right
Yeah.
frequency at which we should be in touch with our fans and our supporters? I mean, there's really no right or wrong there, but I think it's just like, sort of like just the common sense of like, I mean, how often do you want to stay in touch with anybody? Or, how often do you get emails from your favorite retailers? Or how often does Netflix keep you updated on things or whatever? Like just thinking about the other sort of ways that you stay in touch with things in your life. I mean, I often use as a benchmark, like, to your general file, like think of it as maybe twice a month. But I
Mm,
think that to make that sustainable, it doesn't have to be like a really big, long, complex newsletter that
mm,
requires hours of production. And I think I've seen, now I'm remembering, because I've just looked while you're talking, I was looking at my email box to refresh my memory. Yeah, sometimes you just send out an announcement about, an upcoming event, just one thing. So it's sort of like, it's like a short newsletter. And I think I think that kind of stuff is totally adequate. It's like not everybody opens every newsletter, as you probably know from looking at your metrics. Usually it could be like about a quarter of the people. And it's like sometimes it's like different people each time. So it's really about having consistency in that messaging, as you alluded to. But again, I think it doesn't have to be like a long 5-page complex design thing. It can be a quick short piece. And believe me, like, I mean, and I don't mean to disparage anybody on the call who has like a very long, complex newsletter, but sometimes the short newsletters can be better, because people's attention span, as you all know, is like, it's pretty thin,
yeah,
that
for
kind of stuff.
sure. And
Yeah.
I have found too, what I started doing was I would put the longer content in our blog posts and then put a link to that in our email. So if they wanted to read more, they could just link to that, and it created traffic to our website.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I'm looking at this note from Jess Murphy in the chat. Thank you, Jess, for that. Thinking about also how to, yeah, just how to create sort of fun themes that will be sort of easy to create. I love this Welcome Wednesday kind of approach that you have, which I think you adapted onto social media. I mean, I think, and I do think, there's a little bit of like trying to make it as fun as possible for the recipient. I mean, we definitely don't want to be in a position, Abby, and maybe others would agree, of like this feeling like it's a burden, right? It's like, oh, I got to do the newsletter. This is like the thing I least enjoy every month. Like, that's not a good feeling, right? And if that's where you think you're sort of stuck at, I would just say, maybe it's time for sort of like a refresh think, and like, okay, we need to do a reboot or a rethink of this email blast that we're sending out, because it's too formulaic. Let's change it up a bit. Let's change the design, or let's just find, a little bit like Jess said, let's find some kind of fun theme. Maybe we send it on a certain day of the week, or maybe it's timed around, the Friday feeling, or just like, things that you think would be, sort of really positive for people and positive for you. So I definitely hear what you're saying, Abby, about like the challenge of like, just getting your newsletter, your email game kind of into a good shape, and also don't hesitate really to engage with your subscribers. Throw them out a little survey. How often do you want to hear from us? What do you want to hear from us? Like, just try to get, make it a little bit more sort of a learning process. You are really doing these email blasts, not just for yourself, but really for the people receiving them. So you want them to be involved and engaged in that as well. So I definitely, open it up to folks so you're really hearing what they want.
Awesome, thank you.
And I just wanted to chime in. Thank you, Abby, so much. I just wanted to chime in and say, I know we at the foundation are revising how we are thinking about newsletters as well. And so we are asking ourselves, is monthly the right frequency, or are there more valuable things that we can, present to our different audiences? So one example is we're thinking about how to bring the donor along in the journey and not just flash information that they don't care about in front of them. So instead, we might say, hey, donor A, we just dispersed your funds to nonprofit X. Sign up for their newsletter to continue on in the journey. So thinking about different points after the transaction where you can say and take them along in the journey of where their money went and how it's being impactful, that might be even better than a long newsletter that's just stating all the stuff that you guys are up to, because it's more personal and it's specifically about their donation impacting your program. So just wanted to mention, we're in the throes ourselves of rethinking newsletters and engagement at a lot of different levels.
I'm so glad you're working on that, Jordan. I mean, I just think this is it's just a great topic, and I think, as Abby said, it's sort of like, I think everyone kind of at some point sort of struggles with like, oh, it's this time of the month, I got to get out the newsletter. And in a way, it's like you do want to try to get out of that rut as much as possible, because it's, if it's just, and this is one of the reasons why email newsletters, only get like, 20 to 25% open rates, and that's kind of the norm, which is a little bit sad that, they're not read more consistently by our subscribers, but that's a little bit of how it's become. But of course, the challenge is that like everyone under the sun wants to send you email, right? From every retailer and media streaming service you've got, and, billing person and everything else. So, those definitely are challenges. So the more you can make your newsletter sort of pop, so to speak, or your email bulletins pop and make them interesting, I think it's going to be a win-win for everybody. It'll make it more interesting for you to produce it, and hopefully for the people reading it, they'll be like, "Oh, I'm always so excited to read about something that's going on." I got a couple newsletters, I think today or yesterday. I got one from WeCycle. I don't know if there's anybody here from WeCycle. I got another one from the American Solar Energy Society. I was just thinking, I really do like the ones from WeCycle, there was a I remember reading about it. There was like they were announcing an event. They were telling people about like how to donate things, and then all the way at the bottom of the newsletter, there was this great sort of story about how how they were making an impact in the community, and almost like a thank you. And I thought, why on earth is that all the way down at the bottom? I loved that thing. And that should be either at the top, or it should just be like an email on its own. And I feel like sometimes, people sort of bury the gold like somewhere down at the bottom, but really, like, making the case for how you're making an impact on the community. I mean, people want to read that stuff. I mean, sure, they want to know about events, they want to know about upcoming things and everything else, which is very transactional, but they also want to hear about how your mission is being accomplished. They want success stories. They want to hear like the happy stuff that makes them feel good about being a supporter and being a donor and being a subscriber and all that kind of stuff. I'm just looking at what's going on in the chat room. So yeah, Gracie, thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, hopefully, between what we're talking about here on the call and with some of these sessions that Jordan is organizing, it can help everyone just keep making interesting email out there. The folks on the American Solar Energy Society, I don't know if there's anybody here on the call from ASAE. I'm always like incredibly impressed by the volume of content in your newsletter. And I was like looking through some videos that you had shared, I think like yesterday or today. Yeah, I mean, I hope that kind of format works for you, and you're getting lots of like strong click rates and open rate. But I mean, that's another example of like a very lengthy and chock full of content newsletter. But I'm sure the production time is high to be able to produce those. So those are kind of decisions that everyone has to make. So.
Yeah, and I'll just mention that's a lot of what we're trying to revise for our newsletters is we were trying to fit everything for everybody in a newsletter, when in reality, we noticed that what they were clicking on was above the fold. It was the first couple statements or the first couple call to actions or links, and then everything else really was just material content. So we are rethinking main call to action, secondary call to action, short, sweet, beautiful.
And also, since you use the phrase above the fold, which is like the 3 most powerful words in digital marketing, thinking about mobile, a lot of people are like, they're on their phones all the time, waiting to pick up their kids in the carpool lane, jumping on the train, whatever. It's like, you also have to make sure that anything you send by email is like really, really mobile friendly. Is everything getting scrunched down? Is the font size large enough? Are the buttons easy to press? Are the links easy to see? Are the color scheme okay? I mean, even just like little things like that can be really important. So Jordan, I hope that the class that you're going to be offering, kind of addresses some of that stuff too, because I just think it's also really, really important is to think about, the different devices that we're using. Oh yeah, Abby, I'm just looking at your comment in the chat about some of the segmentation that you're doing with emails. And yeah, I mean, we talked about that last time. So definitely super important. I mean, sure, you can send a newsletter to your whole list. I mean, that's certainly easy to do. But if you can sort of say to yourself, well, these people here on our file, they were really interested, in our work around, I don't know, whatever, food, and these folks were interested in something else. So, in a way, you're assuring that, the content is relevant to the reader. We're just going to end on this slide before we wrap up in a couple minutes, but just wanted to, these are just like questions for you to be thinking about as you think about donor prospecting and engagement. I think this whole theme about signing up prospects everywhere, again, just like, what's worked best for you, like, and how can you lean into the stuff that works best for you, and just really just constantly just thinking as broadly as possible about where to find your next prospects, where to sign people up and how to do it. We've talked a ton about email welcome series. I mean, we'd love for everyone to have an email welcome series, by the summer. And again, as Jordan and I have said, we want to support you in that effort. Please reach out to us if we can do more there. We're obviously watching your content that's being pushed out through the newsletters on social media. So definitely feel free to constantly sharing those with us. The webinar we've mentioned. Thank you for the comments on segmentation. I mean, I just think anytime you're able to really just, collect your data correctly, segment, you really just get more power to communicate with folks and the people respond, I think, a little bit better. We've got lots of Catch-A-Fire stuff coming up, and I'm just going to take a quick look at the chat. I think we're going to wrap that up then, Jordan. And I will just say, as we're wrapping up, that so we have two more sessions coming up in March. It's going to be a lot of conversation about tech tools, and so we are working on the agenda for that. I mean, we're hoping to organize this around different channels, different areas. So maybe talking about websites, talking about email, talking about social media, maybe peer-to-peer fundraising. We'll touch, of course, on the tools in Colorado Gives and Mighty Cause, but we also may, like we did today, like dig into a few other email platforms or stuff like that. So if you have things that you want us to talk about, or a tech theme that is bedeviling you and that you want to try to help talk about, definitely reach out to us. Let us know in email. Otherwise, I will pass it back over to Jordan.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you. Not much more to say, except thank you guys for joining us today. I think this was a great discussion and really allowed us to just hear from you all and hopefully to present even more resources to you guys as we hear the specifics of where you're getting stuck, your challenges, and also your successes. So just thank you for spending some time with us today. We'll look forward to seeing you March 21st. And then in the interim, we would love to meet with you one-on-one. We would love you to start setting up, if you haven't already, Catch-A-Fire projects for your 2024 goals. And then I shared in the chat a webinar in March, specifically on newsletters that we're doing. So really on the nose for this topic and what we're chatting about today. That's on the 27th. So yeah, this will be recorded. It'll be on the Level Up page, as well as the presentation that Michael shared today. And if you need anything, I will be your first point of contact, and I can try to connect you with the resources you need. So thanks, everybody, and I hope you have a great Thursday and weekend.
Thanks, everybody.